the VSL. So after you go to an opt-in page and you opt in and you put in your information, the next thing that's going to happen is it's going to go to a VSL or a training. So in this case, here's the video with the training, and they can book a call right here. And again, the reason for that is this funnel specifically is conditioned to push people to book sales calls. So after they opt into the VSL, they'll have an opportunity to click on that apply button. So if I go back to the screen right here, you'll click, and then they can fill out this application. And the goal of the application is to make sure that they're a qualified prospect. Qualified meaning you don't want to talk to someone who, let's say, for example, you're trying to go on a date and you obviously want to go on a date with someone who's single and is available. If you're only talking to married women, that's not going to go well because they are no longer available. And so in this case, what the application would do is make sure that they are a qualified prospect, someone who is single in this case, that you could actually take on the date, right? Because we don't want to waste our time. Once they filled out that application, we go to the next part in the pipeline, which is to book a call. And so now they've booked that call. And once they've booked the call, we're going to do two things. We're going to have what we call auto confirmations, which is email and text messages that will go out automatically. And then we will also have our sales reps who will send a manual text. And the manual text might sound something like, hey, Tanner, excited for our call tomorrow at 8 a.m. Just want to confirm that we're on. If you could text me back so I know you got this. And if you could please watch these videos, that would be super helpful. And that's pretty much it. And the reason for that is we want to make sure people are busy. They have a lot of stuff going on. We've already paid for these leads. And we want to make sure that we get as many of them to show up to the calls as possible so that we can obviously help them and make money, because that's the point of the business. Now, once they get to the sales call, we have a 7 to 9 step process we use to get the prospect to go from not knowing who me and my company are to buying. So the first thing we do is the pre-frame. Now, the pre-frame is just basically letting them know what's going to happen on the call. So, hey, on this call, we're going to figure out what your goals are, what you're struggling with, what you tried. At the end, if what we can do is a fit for you, we'll let you know. If it's not, we'll also let you know, right? And so that is called the pre-frame. The next thing is what we call discovery. So the discovery is questions, figuring out where they are in their journey and making sure that we get context so that we know if we can help them and get them to make a decision. So questions I might ask would be, what is your goal? What are you struggling with? What have you tried? How much opportunity cost have you lost out by not making a decision? If this is a fit, are you able to move forward today? Do you need your spouse's permission? Some of these questions you should have already asked on the application. But essentially, if you were giving someone advice, pretend you weren't getting paid. The way you would help them, right, is by understanding the situation, okay? So that's what we call discovery. After we figure out where they are in their situation, we just summarize it and say it back to them so we understand and make sure we're on the same page. So, hey, John, now that I've gone through this, your goal is to make $100,000 a month. You're struggling to get leads. You've tried 3 different coaching programs. You're ready to move forward if it's a fit, but you're a little hesitant because you've been burned in the past. And so this has to make sense for you to move forward. Does that sound about right? Awesome. Okay, so that being said, John, now what I want to do is move into what we call the 3 pillars. Now, the 3 pillars, and that's how it might actually sound on a sales call. Now, the 3 pillars are the 3 main reasons someone would work with you and pay you more money. So a lot of people don't understand this part. It's not enough to just have 3 reasons why someone would work with you. You have to pretend in this situation, this is how I made so much money, that if you charge $10,000 and your competitor charges $5,000, why would they want to pay you $10,000 instead of your competitor $5,000? And so usually you're going to want 2 reasons around a unique selling proposition, or what we call a USP. A USP is what is different about your product. So for example, let's just use shoes because that's an easy one. Let's say your shoes could fly, right? If you wore these shoes, you can fly, okay? Or these shoes will help you run faster. Those would be 2 reasons why someone might pay more for those shoes than, something from Payless. And then the third one might be something about you. So in my context, I'll say, hey, the reason you want to work with my company is I've done over $100 million in the last 6 years, and there's very few people who've done that. And that probably means I am more adept to help you because I've had more experience and I've been through more stuff. Now, whether they believe that or not is up to them, but that makes sense, right? Like it would make sense why Bill Gates would cost more to work with than, your mom or your dad, right? Like Bill Gates is who he is and your parents are who they are. So that is what the purpose of the 3 pillars are. Once we've gone through that, the prospect, if we've done this right, should be pretty much sold. So all we have to do now is give them a brief overview of what they're going to get. So, hey, you're going to get, account management, you're going to get coaching, you're going to get funnels, or whatever they're going to get. It doesn't really matter. It can be 5 minutes or less, because keep in mind, prospects don't care what they get. They won't care about the result. So if I said, you'll be a billionaire if you turn in a circle 35 times, you would do it. It's just most people don't believe that. But if they did, a lot of people would do it because they just want the result. They don't care what they have to do to get it, as long as it's ethical and moral, right? Once we've gone through the brief overview, then we go into certainty. And so certainty is just going to the prospect and saying, hey, so John, now that you've heard everything, do you think this is a fit for you? Or why do you think this is a fit for you? The reason we want to ask that is John, if he isn't certain, we have to raise certainty before we tell him the price. If we start giving the price to the prospect and they're not certain that this is a fit, it usually is not going to end in a close, because they're not even sure that this is what they want. And so before we ever drop the price, I stop and pause and say, John, just to be sure, before I let you know, is this a fit for you? And if he says yes, then once we drop the price, if he gives some type of price objection, for example, it's easy to go, well, John, earlier you said this is a perfect fit for you. And now that I told you the price, you say it's not. So I guess I'm a little confused. And you're able to work through that objection. Then we go into the price drop. And so a price drop might just say, hey, John, the price of the program is $10K for 4 months. Sound fair enough? And then from there, we'll either close or John will have objections. Now, there's only 4 objections you're going to get in high ticket companies. And that's the great thing, because there's not a lot of stuff to train on. It's going to be a price objection. It'll be a time objection, right? So I need to think about it. It'll be a spouse objection or a belief. Belief is just, I'm scared, right? Like, hey, Tanner, it sounds good, but I'm just really scared. Those are the only 4 objections you're going to get. And so if you practice those religiously, it's pretty easy to overcome, because there's only 4 versus when I did door-to-door sales, I had to do 20 objections or 30 objections. So that's the sales call portion. Once we're done with that, then we move into the contract sign. The reason you need this in a business is, unfortunately, end of the day, if someone charges back or there's a legal proceeding, you need to make sure that you can prove that they signed up willingly, they wanted to sign up, and you protect yourself from, any legal ramifications. Nothing too complex there. Something that we like to use is something called DocuSign. There's a lot of different softwares you can use, but we have a template, we load it up, we add in their name, email, phone number, those types of things, and then we're off to the races. The next part is then onboarding. So the client has now signed the agreement and we start to onboard. And there's 3 main things we do. First, we give them a onboarding sheet. So an onboarding sheet is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, do those. We will then give them these worksheets to fill out. So when they talk to their account manager, the account manager hits the ground running with them. We don't waste any time. And then once they do that, they book in the call with the account manager to go over the first steps and details. So it's a 3-pronged approach. And we start here with the onboarding sheet, giving them everything they need, where it will have the worksheets on it and a link to book in a call with their account manager. After that, we start moving into the curriculum, all right? And the curriculum has a couple, phases. So the first part is what's in the actual curriculum. So we teach them a method we call conversion conversations. We teach them an outbound method, where this is how to get customers with either cold email, cold calling, DMs, like strangers that are not aware of who you are. Then we will do inbound, right? Inbound being people who message us or come from paid ads. We have sales. We'll go through hiring, and then we'll also teach them systems. So those are the key components. And then the way we deliver that is we have group components. We have one-to-one account management. We have events, and then we also have coursework or curriculum. And so that is a structure of the actual curriculum. And then finally, now they're getting results. And so once they're getting results, we get reviews, which helps us get more customers. So for example, if I go to leadseals.com, we have 318 reviews. We only started using this about a year ago. I wish we had started using it, 6 years ago. We'd be over 1,000, but we're at 4.7 at this moment, out of 5. And so that helps us get more clients. And then after we get those reviews, it'll also help us upgrade those clients into higher level packages. So we increase the lifetime value of the customer so we can make more money in the business. And this is a really key component in building a big business, because that is basically profit, right? You don't have to pay for the customer again. They're already in your system. It's just new profit. And finally, that turns into green cash, which then we take and put back into the beginning of the system to drive more traffic. And then whatever's left over goes into investments, buying other companies, portfolios, and everything in between.